Welcome to the Pillars of Wisdom podcast. I'm your host, GLO. Tuning in today is Vito, my co-host. I want to talk to you about our client experiences, Latin America, and why it's the path for you to live your best life. So I'm sure you've seen our ads. I'm sure you've seen our top of funnel. We're doing really good in terms of our production, but I think a lot of you guys want to know what it's going to look like when you win. What's it going to look like when you actually achieve the dream? Vito and I have been working together for 3 years. We've serviced a lot of clients. We've helped a lot of people, families, single men, a couple of women move abroad to Latin America and escape this inflation. So, Vito, what do you think are some of the most important points for our audience that are really thinking about running away from inflation to something better?
Well, first of all, I think we should address why Latin America in the first place.
Yes, why Latin America?
Not Thailand or Portugal or Europe, right?
Perfect, yeah.
Well, the thing is, Latin America makes it really easy to integrate. It's very close to the US, so if you have any business going on over there, you can just fly over there instead of doing an 18-hour flight. It's a 2-hour flight.
Okay.
Because people still have families over there. They still want to go for Christmas dinners. It's cheaper. And for example, in Europe, the inflation rate is rising each year, whereas here in Latin America.
Well, one of the things that I want to kind of go back a little bit on is we need to start thinking about time zones, right? People talk about Dubai, people talk about Thailand, but the way the global economy works is most of the economy is in the Eastern time zone, especially if you're an English speaker. The London time zone is also pretty good. And there's also the Beijing time zone. Problem with the Beijing time zone is if you don't speak Chinese, I don't think that's the best time zone for you.
You're cooked.
The European economy isn't as strong as the American economy. It's not anywhere near that. So most likely, if you're seeing this video, the majority of the GDP, that liquidity pool that will help you live your best life, is in the Eastern time zone. So you don't want to stray too much from that time zone, because if you do, you're going to be working at weird times. You're not going to be able to come into your meetings normally.
Right. I actually have a client, or had a client, who was going to expat over here, but he wanted to do like a trip to Thailand. And the time zones completely fucked him up, because during the day, he's not doing anything. And he has to work night shifts, which are during the day in Europe.
You guys
right?
don't want to work you don't want to work a night shift. You don't want to work a night shift. I understand if you want to visit Bali. I understand if you want to see those beautiful places. But long term, what we found in our company is people who do that, they do a time zone burnout. Latin America is very beautiful, and you will still be able to hit your 8 a.m. meeting, and you're not going to shift your sleep cycle too much.
Right, because he is completely burnt out. I called him. He was so burnt out, he couldn't continue the consulting because of this time zone difference. And when I called him, he just sounded tired all the time. He just burned himself out completely because he wanted to visit Thailand and so on. But now he's not even enjoying it because he's so burnt out.
So I guess the time zone thing, it sounds like a minor detail, but it's actually a major, major detail. And in our 3 years of working, we've seen a lot of time zone burnouts, and we don't want you guys to end up in that category.
Right. So I guess the next thing that we should hit is also the cost of living here in Latin America.
So according to the cost of living adjustment calculator, where we're living right now in the Yucatan is about 60% cheaper. And then on top of that, with the dollar, you have a very good conversion, and it's going to get stronger over time. There's shifts in monetary policy, but the dollar is always strong in Latin America. And I would say the other issue is if you're saving money on taxes with the foreign earned income exclusion, when you combine tax reduction with that 60% cost of living, You multiply that out, you're going to be having about 6 times the amount of spendable income. The other thing is when you think about Mexico specifically, economically, Mexico is part of the US. Mexico supplies the US with all of its goods. And so all the stores you're used to, your Costco's, your Home Depots, are right here. In fact, all of the products that you buy right now in the United States probably originate from Mexico. So you're not going to have to really readjust in terms of the kind of products that you use to consume it.
Right. I mean, again, I had clients over here. They came the first time, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is so cheap. I can live off of like $1,000 here just fine," you know. And these are people that earned like $2,000, $3,000, right? So not only did they keep more of their money, but they could later reinvest it into something like real estate, because that's also super cheap over here.
You know, a lot of millennials have confined themselves to being a rentoid, renting their whole life. You could buy a house here for $100,000. You could probably put $20,000 down, and you could get your starter home, which are completely not an option in the United States. So I think that's a very big move.
Right. I called a lot of people who are like still paying off their mortgage, and they're in their 40s.
You know, I would say taxes and mortgage are the highest cost, and they're what make your life worse. If you're hearing this, taxes and mortgage are ruining you. And by outmaneuvering American taxes and predatory banks, you're going to live a lot better, and you're going to start living the life you deserve.
Right. So the solution isn't necessarily to earn more. It's to find ways to keep more of your money. Because even if you earn, like, let's say you get a salary increase of 20%, you're paying 20% more taxes.
One of our long-term clients, he flies drones to map out power lines. And that's something that you can do remote. And that's a job that we helped a couple of people actually achieve. But what he told me, he said, look, I want to buy a house, but am I going to get a double promotion? Am I going to get a triple promotion? He basically said in order for him to buy a house in San Diego, which is where he's from, he'd have to become CEO of his company. Now think for a second. What are the chances of you becoming a CEO? Are you going to be promoted to CEO? Is that going to happen anytime soon? No, that's not going to happen. The thing that could happen is you take a drastic move, you fly over here, you cut your costs, you cut your rent, you don't get banged on a mortgage, and that's how you're going to get 6 times your money. You need to do the things that no one else is doing to get those big advantages.
Right. So instead of trying to become the CEO's wife, you just buy a plane ticket and move here.
You know, I don't think our friend who flies drones to map power lines wants to position himself in such a way as to become the CEO's wife. That is an option, but I really think Latin America is a better option than being the CEO's wife. But that's a big success story for us. Who else has done really well?
We have people, we promote Mexico a lot, but there is you don't have to come to Mexico. You can go to Colombia, you can go to Argentina, you can go to Chile. And the good thing about it is if you have a passport in one of these countries, it's easy to get a passport in these other countries. Like there was one guy, he got his Mexican passport, and from his Mexican passport, he was able to receive his Colombian passport. From his Colombian passport, he got his Argentinian passport. So it kind of like cascades, and you can start holding multiple passports in your hand.
Let's talk about some failure stories. Let's talk about the kind of people who don't do well. Here in Latin America, you can go into a pharmacy and you can buy anything. You can buy anything. And so when you come here, you're going to start seeing these expat people who are addicted to painkillers, and the pharmacy will sell them their painkillers. So if you don't have a good internal locus of control, Latin America can ruin you because things are a lot cheaper here. Things are a lot more available here. And if you have these, let's say, negative proclivities, you could basically buy oxycodone, you could buy Xanax. And when you see the expats here, the ones who don't come here with a plan, they don't end well.
they're rotting actually. It's a rotting space. And over time, they kind of just rot themselves out. And then they return back to the US and say, well, this whole expat thing didn't really work out for me.
If this is an adventure, and there's times where it's difficult, where you need to learn a new language, where you need to adapt to a new culture, where you need to move your furniture through high levels of heat, right? You should take moving to another country as a part-time job. And that's what it is for the first 2 years. It's a big, big adventure. And so if you have problems with drugs and alcohol, that's a channel that's going to get blown wide open for you. And it's going to end really, really bad. And if you look through Playa del Carmen, Cancun, a lot of the cities in Colombia, you're going to see the consequences of that. Let's talk about women.
Yeah. Women here, it's really interesting because the women here, they act liberal, but they're actually really traditional. So they pretend to be these like liberated women who are feminists, but they'll still like cook you a meal. They'll still treat you like a man. Like if you go home or if you're like with them at home, it doesn't feel like she's emasculating you. She doesn't like withhold sex from you at all. You know, she'll say her feminist stuff, whatever, to feel good about herself,
Sure.
but she'll still act like a traditional wife.
What I want to point out though is the population here is younger, and it's easier to date because there's more options, because Mexico and Latin America has had a better birth rate for a long period of time, and that's really good.
100%, and I can personally attest to this because I've gone here on so many more dates than I did back in Europe, and it's really easy to, you know, there's this whole thing about cold approach and culture where it's kind
There's
of
no
dead.
cold approach. Who are you calling approach?
Right, but here you
For
have
your
that
mom?
here you have that availability because there's just, I go out on a Sunday evening, and there's just 20-year-old women just walking around the city.
But it's very easy to get into a good relationship here, and there's a lot of women who will make you feel like a winner. But what you need to remember is that you're an expat, and you're not a winner if the women tell you you're a winner. You're a winner if abroad in Europe or in America, you're financially sound. So many men get lost in feeling like a winner because these women will make you feel like a winner, and they forget where their money comes from. And from there, they get blown out. So it's important to understand that when you're an expat, your money is in the US or Europe, and that is your reality. And you need to focus on that, and that determines if you're a winner. A lot of people here will project things onto you. They'll make you feel good about yourself, but it's kind of up to you, internal locus of control, to determine if you deserve to feel good about yourself.
In other words, you should use other expats as a measurement on how successful you are in your own journey, right? If you see these other expats not doing well, but you see yourself doing better than them, that means you're on the right path, right? When they're doing their weird drugs and they're in their weird expat communities, but you do the opposite, you're going in the right path.
This has a lot of opportunity, but you need to have a strong will, because, you know, without sauce, you're lost, but you can get lost in the sauce. And a lot of people get lost in the sauce, and there's a big expat bar next to where we live, and they are all lost in the sauce. So I would say if you have any drug problems, you need to figure that out long before you come here, because Mexico and Colombia will pour gasoline all over your drug problems.
Right.
And that will absolutely destroy your life. And
It's an amplifier. So whatever your current structures are, if you don't fix them back there in the US first or in Europe first, and you come here with all your problems, it just gets amplified. But if you come here with a sound structure and a sound plan, that's going to get amplified too. So that's how you have to see it.
if you want to live your best life, you have to live your best body. And that starts with an amazing workout early in the morning. The best workout of your life can't and won't happen surrounded by the worst people in the worst environment. To be the best, you have to surround yourself with success. The most important part of building muscle is recovery, and that can't happen if you're bogged down by distractions. Beautiful places don't just feel different, they inhabit a different energy that's essential for you to live life to the fullest. Growth requires abundance. Your physical, spiritual, and mental well-being is ultimately a product of your environment. Logistics are the hidden variable of life. If it's expensive, chaotic, and stressful just to live, it's impossible to build in abundance. The Pillars of Wisdom is your roadmap to living your best life. And all of that starts only when you take the first step.
Buy your copy today so you can be in the beach with me.
But anyway, let's talk about one of the things that people always are concerned with is learning Spanish.
I think learning Spanish is really easy. It's not a hardship language. As far as the American military is concerned, if you speak Spanish, they're not going to pay you more. And you're going to learn through immersion. And I think there's a lot of very interesting, colorful people. And they are going to pull you into all sorts of situations, both good and bad. And they're going to force you into that Spanish. I personally didn't learn Spanish that well from a book, but when I was forced to negotiate for my business, when I was forced to negotiate for my relationship, when I was forced to negotiate for our rent and our documentation, they really did not hold back. They used all their big boy words on me, and they just pushed me into the big Spanish pool. And I think that's a 2-year process of understanding and being able to be understood with major grammatical issues. But then to speak at your high level of, if you want to speak at your English, or if you want to speak at your Spanish, it's going to probably take you 4 or 5 years. It's going to be an adjustment process for you to find all your vocabulary words.
Right. I mean, you can get by with English here just fine because there's plenty of people who speak English, specifically in this city, right? But you'll build much better relationships just knowing Spanish. And to be honest with you, like I didn't go to a Spanish school either. I learned Spanish from my ex-girlfriend. So it's really not that hard to learn.
The people here will help you learn Spanish. It's going to be an immersion thing. It's going to be stressful. But the brain adapts to stress. The body adapts to stress in terms of bodybuilding. And it's not something I would worry about. And however much hardship learning Spanish gives you, you should really think about how much hardship paying American taxes is going to give you. And is it worth it to save $50,000 a year if you have to learn a new language? What is your time worth? I'll gladly learn any kind of language to not have to pay American taxes.
Right, yeah, because that's just a bigger pain point than, if you pay taxes all your life, you're gonna be way more stressed and lose way more money than just 6 months of hard, like Mexicans or Latin Americans trying to speak to you in their Spanish really fast, and you have to adapt to that.
Okay, what colorful stories do we have about clients that have succeeded abroad and clients that have failed abroad?
So succeeded, I have this one client currently, still my client, and he's planning to move here in July, actually. And he used to be in the Norwegian Navy, and he was a diver for oil rigs. So he was already like a really structured person. And when he came here, and obviously he liked to travel around and all that stuff. When he came here, he realized how cheap his living was. And he still wanted to travel. But he was like, well, I need a home base where I can return to that's gonna give me a bigger return of investment. And so now currently he's with his brothers in Nicaragua, but he's gonna come back next week, and then we're gonna set up his his residency process, actually.
I think for a lot of Northern Europeans, like Norwegians or people in the Baltics, I think the weather's very good for them. I think they realize how much time they wasted in winter, how unproductive they were, and how that was holding themselves back. I guess kind of on the other side of the drug conversation is that there are a lot of performance enhancing neurotropic drugs. So there is a drug called cerebromycin, which helps in brain repair for people with Alzheimer's or high levels of stress. That's available here. That's not available in the US easily. There's a lot of peptides that can help your metabolism. There's a lot of peptides that can help your mental clarity. And so all of that brain hacking that can help you get that extra 20, 30% edge as a CEO, you can have access to those things here. And in terms of the food as well, because you are what you eat, I think we've been eating amazing grass-fed lamb. That's been really good. I've noticed the productivity of my team has been much, much higher because we're able to get the supplements that we like. We're able to get the quality of food that we like. Where we are right now, there's very good honey. We really enjoy our coffee and tea with honey. That's really good. And it might seem like a little silly little detail, but your nutrition is everything. So,
Right. The fact that it's also cheap and available here is what makes it really good. Because in the US, probably if you want something fresh or natural, you're gonna have to pay a premium price, and most people can't afford that. So they'll just stuff themselves with slop, and their brain becomes slop too. Whereas if you come here, it's much more available. I mean, we pay for raw milk like $10.
yeah, we've been getting raw milk for $10. That's really good. We've been having raw butter. And these things are very, very hard to get in the US.
Right.
I remember buying raw milk in the US. I had to show up in a parking lot at 7 a.m. In California. A truck pulled up. A man screamed at me. He was like, "Have your cash ready, have your cash ready." And I handed him cash, and he handed me a milk bag. And it was veterinary milk, animal milk, that I should only feed to my cat or whatever. And he zoomed off before the police. It was one of the most hardcore, high stakes thing I've done.
Over raw milk.
Over raw milk. And here, you can just buy raw milk. And, I know there's a lot of married men and their wives like baking, and they can bake with raw milk. There's also very good eggs here.
Yeah.
There's jungle chickens that eat all kinds of worms. And so really the nutrition in terms of the skin, hair, and nails, we like to indulge ourselves in a little bit of bodybuilding. And the milk and the eggs really, I think, changed our life. What are some cautionary tales that you can give as we kind of close this out?
Well, I've had clients who completely failed. Most of my clients failed, actually. And the deciding factor that made them fail was the fact they weren't able to move at the right time. Because they thought they had an infinite amount of time, they could just come here whenever, and it'll be the same. And a lot of them missed, and a lot of them got stuck. All of a sudden, they had all of a sudden divorce going on. They lost their job. They lost their finances. A hurricane fucking blew off their house, or they fell from a bike and broke both their arms. And what I'm trying to say is, like, anything can happen at any time, and you only have a short runway to really grab this opportunity. And we like to think, oh yes, I'll do it later, because it gives us this enjoyment of jerking around the thing that we want. But if you don't grab it now, you're gonna miss out on this great opportunity, and you'll stay stuck forever.
So I guess to kind of close this off, this is an amazing opportunity. A lot of people are benefiting, but there's a group of people who we discuss in our book, they're a schmoof. and a schmoof is going to goof, and they always manage to find a banana peel. Either they throw the banana peel down or a banana peel appears, but they will always slip on it. And so this whole kind of procrastination, if you really think about your life and your finances, things are probably a little bit more volatile than you like to admit to yourself. And you need to get off that train onto the next train before your roof blows off in a hurricane. That happened. You fall off a bike and you fracture everything. Your boss, something.
Your wife divorces you
Your
because
wife
she's
divorces
unhappy.
you. And, we deal with such scale of clients that we've seen it all. And I think the best move is always to move fast, move before you think you're ready, because how you feel about something and how much runway you have are two separate things. So I guess discussing our clients that didn't make it, they were all schmoofs who found a schmoof banana peel.
And they made themselves fail.
I know there's a talk of energy lockdowns coming up. So I guess to really close out our little talk, we want you to be one of our winning clients. We don't want you to be a schmoofy banana slipper. And we have a whole list, and we like to talk about them. It's
Right.
kind of a funny.
You
but
don't want to end up in that file. You don't want to end up in the schmoofy file where you're shown as the bad example, the guy who didn't make it, right? So you're not that cautionary tale, but you are actually the tale that succeeded.
So I guess move fast, move now. You're going to think yourself. It's going to take a while for you to get that green Mexican passport, what other color the other passports are, but that residency thing is a process. It's a long process. You want to get in on it as early as possible because it's only going to get more expensive. And your life in the US will only get more chaotic.
Yeah.
So the Pillars of Wisdom, I'm Jilo. This is Vito. Thanks for tuning in. Don't be a schmoof. Don't slip on a banana peel, and you're going to live a good life here with us. Thank you.